Just over the most recent 10 years, a few billion-dollar organizations like Uber and Facebook have been associated with the protected innovation outrage, continually exhibiting the force of unique thoughts, and regardless of whether any creator truly has them in any case. Alongside the touch of internet help and a ton of exploration, we started to see that the most well-known innovators ever, some credited with the development of significant items like the light and the radio, essentially took their thoughts from others. In this video, we will observe 10 thoughts esteemed in billions of dollars that were most certainly not unique. Before the video begins though, let us know in the comments which invention was your favorite. Don't forget to give it a like as well. Let's get started. At number 10, we have Monopoly. Like other renowned innovations or revelations throughout the long term, the popular prepackaged game and the incomparable American hobby, Monopoly was really designed by a lady. Truth be told, it was made by an intense and moderate lady by the name of Elizabeth Magie in 1903. In those days, it was designed the game of owners, and it was utilized to show the awful outcomes of land gathering. Despite the fact that his story is noticeable, many actually guarantee that Charles Darrow is the genuine designer, despite the fact that he completely stole credit for her. At number 9, we have the sewing machine. At the point when you consider a sewing machine the principal organization that presumably rings in its Singer Corporation, chiefly on the grounds that right up until today, there are yet a strong element in the assembly business, machines. In any case, as indicated by Cambridge history, notwithstanding this firm command over the sewing machine industry, Isaac Singer and Singer Corporation took the thought from Elias Howe, who in the end sued the organization for the option to get the Inventions, and they ended up winning. At number 8, we have the TV. Despite the fact that your course books might cause you to accept the primary TV was made by Vladimir Zworykin for the RCA Gadgets organization, it was really conducted by Philo Taylor Farnsworth, an innovator with 165 licenses in his possession. It worked out that Farnsworth imagined TV in 1927. At 21 years old, and after 3 years, Zworykin visited his lab to see his innovation and wound up taking his thoughts. Following a very long-term court fight, RCA in the end lost the underlying legal dispute and allure, and that implies Farnsworth would actually need to use sovereignties for his creations, despite the fact that he has not yet gotten any acknowledgement for his merits. At number 7, we have the telephone. In the last part of the 1800s, a competition to make the primary effective telephone was in progress, and the two fundamental competitors in this race were Elisha Gray and Alexander Graham Bell. Assuming that you never knew about Gray, it's most likely on the grounds that you were instructed in school that Bell was the creator of the gadget. As it happens, on February 14, 1876, the two men documented their license, despite the fact that it was truly found that Bell actually paid off the patent office to find what Gray's invention truly resembled. Due to this trickiness, it is generally guaranteed that Elisha Gray is the primary creator of the phone, despite the fact that he never actually acquired the credit he merits. At number 6, we have the laser. Gordon Gould made what he called the laser, or amplification of light by stimulated radiation emission. In spite of the fact that he had quite recently imagined something vital that he needed to show, he believed that he would have to consummate his laser configuration prior to applying for a patent. And notwithstanding, sadly for Gould, this stumble permitted two of his associates to take his thought and patent it 2 years after the fact in 1959. At long last, following 30 years of legal fights, Gould had one option to authentically place his name on the invention, and case a few $1 million in immenses. Fortunately for Mr. Gould, he was able to make a few $1 million out of this, but for the others, they made nothing. Coming in at number 5, we have the radio. Somewhat recently of the 19th century, Nikola Tesla found that he could utilize his electronically charged Tesla loops to communicate messages over significant distances, and yes, he had a patent for this in 1900. During this time, however, a youthful creator with the name Marconi Likewise had a go at conducting something almost identical. Likewise utilized a large number of Tesla's licenses, and when he at least prevailed with regards to making a radio station, he was given credit for making the radio. And Tesla was approximately incensed with this misleading turn of events. Tragically, he never had the cash to arraign Marconi, although the development was credited to him after his demise in 1943. At number 4, we have Jack Daniels. This Tennessee bourbon refinery asserted that while the slaves made the formula, they had not exactly worked out the specific cycle that made Jack Daniels so delectable. Nonetheless, in 2016, the organization that claims the Jack Daniels refinery, Brown-Forman, stood out as truly newsworthy when they at long last chosen to give the acknowledgement they owed throughout the previous 150 years to the slave who really made the bourbon. His name was Nearest Green. At number 3, we have Facebook. At the point when Mark Zuckerberg at 19 years old sent off Facebook as a sophomore at Harvard in 2004, he purposely did so without the 3 of his cohorts who assisted him with coming up with the thought. Their names were Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss and Divya Narinda. In 2007, the 3 understudies got an installment from Facebook to assist with mitigating strains between previous cohorts. Luckily for the 3 cohorts, they got paid a lot of money just to kind of be quiet and shut up. And at number 2 we have the light bulb. The historical backdrop of the light shows the interaction, regularly confounded with the innovation, and generally speaking, the credit isn't conceded to the people who merit it. While Thomas Edison was a splendid designer, he didn't develop the light bulb. Alternatively, alongside different designers you've most likely never known about, Heinrich Goebel presumably imagined it, subsequent to attempting to offer the gadget to Edison in 1854. In 1854, however, Edison saw nothing helpful at that point. Yet soon after Goebel's passing, he purchased the patent for his widow at a very low cost and professed to have designed the item. And finally at number 1 we have Xerox and Apple. There is no denying the genius of Steve Jobs. One of his genius characteristics is the acknowledgement that occasionally different organizations in your industry have better items. What's more, it is to your greatest advantage to gain from them and steal their thoughts. Maybe the most renowned model is the Xerox heist. Back in 1979, Apple was on the ascent and planning to go IPO. At that point, Xerox ran the Palo Alto Research Company, otherwise known as PARC, where all the personalities could improve and foster groundbreaking thoughts that Xerox could ultimately adapt. In return for $1 million worth of pre-IPO Apple stock, Xerox welcomed Jobs and a portion of his Apple designers to visit the office and to quote-unquote look in the engine. In 2022, we know just what a misstep that actually was. Jobs and his team saw a graphical user interface, otherwise known as the GUI, that was light years ahead of anything Apple had ever delivered. The Apple group really repeated that and consolidated it into their most recent item, the Apple Macintosh. Xerox sued Apple over this, claiming $150 million in harm for Apple unlawfully utilizing Xerox copyrights in its Macintosh and Lisa PCs. The case was ultimately dismissed. The rest is history. Mac sold a huge number of PCs while Xerox vanished from the PC market. I hope everyone can learn a thing or two from today's video. Could it be that maybe don't let out your prized thoughts, or maybe be so generous? Maybe everyone isn't always your friend.